Hello, my name is Katie and I'm going to be your Dungeon Master in your up-and-coming Dungeons & Dragons adventure. This video is just to give you a bit of information about Dungeons & Dragons and the equipment that you'll be using during our club. So here we go. Okay, so the main two things that you're going to be using during the game are a bag of dice and your character sheet. Now we'll go over this in a bit more detail in a second, but let's first have a look at the dice. So in here, you've got dice of lots of different shapes and obviously lots of different values. The main one that you're going to be using is this one, which is your D20. Whenever you're asked to do a roll for an activity or you want to see how well you do something, this will be the dice that you'll be using to establish the success level of what you've just done. If you're attacking or you are investigating or you're trying to find any magic, you're going to be using a selection of these other ones. But it will say on your character sheet what dice to use, and obviously I will tell you what dice to use on the day as well. So let's have a look at your character sheet. Now this is just an example, this won't be your actual character. This is what it looks like. Now, sometimes you will get two sheets. So in this case, this is a wizard. So they are able to do magic. So you'll get an additional sheet that looks like this. Obviously, it will have stuff written on it. And this is just a list of all of the spells that you're able to do at different levels. So if you choose to be a character that does magic, you will also get one of these sheets. So here, it looks like a lot of information, but I promise you, during the majority of the game, it's very easy to follow. So let's start down this side here. Now, these numbers that you see here are basically how well you can do different tasks. So when you're doing a saving throw, that's normally because you've been attacked. So say somebody throws something at you and you've got to get out of the way really quickly, then perhaps you're going to have to do a dexterity saving throw to see how fast you can do that. You would then roll a dice and you would add 2 to whatever you get because you're quite good at it, so you've got a +2. These ones down here are other skills. So for example, like I mentioned earlier, you might want to do investigation of a certain bookshelf or a certain book. And again, you would roll your dice, and here you're really good at investigation. It's got a +5 there, so you would add 5 to whatever you've rolled. So you'd be more likely to get a lot of information. However, here you've got a -1 for deception. So let's say you were trying to lie to another character, you might not be as successful because you've got a -1 there. Then here we've got your armor class. Your armor class tells you basically how hard you are to attack. In order for another being to attack you, they have to roll, in this case, a 12 or higher. So the higher number you have in this box, the harder you are to attack. Here we've got your hit points. Now this is basically how long you survive in the game of D&D. So at this point, there's 8 hit points. Now, when you get down to 0, that doesn't actually mean that you're dead. That basically means that you've been knocked unconscious. You don't actually die until you get to -10. And to get there, you have to do lots of saving throws to basically keep yourself stable. But obviously we can go over that in more detail during the game. It's very unlikely that that would happen, but it's just a bit of information for you. Then here we've got your weapons and how you can attack. In this case, there's a short sword. It says here that you've got an attack bonus of +4, which means that when you roll to attack to see if it's a hit, you would then add 4 onto your dice roll. And again, you're going to be looking at the monster's armor class to see whether you actually hit it. Once you know whether you've hit it or not, then you would do your damage roll, which in this case is a 1d6, so a 6-sided dice. And then you would +2 to whatever you roll. So let's say I rolled a 5. Well, in this case, my attack would be a 7. And then we would deduct that 7 off the monster's hit points. And that's how we know whether we would defeat them or not. So that's basically about the fighting side of things. You've also got a lot of puzzle solving, you've got a lot of encounters with other beings to get information. Dungeons and Dragons isn't a game where you just get given a fight and you have to go and fight and defeat the monsters and then move on. You actually have to figure out what your task is and figure out what you should be doing, who you need to speak to and where you need to go. So down here we've actually got a little box which has a section of languages and what you're proficient in. So here it tells you actually you're really good at certain weapons, and then here it says that you can speak Common, which every being in Dungeons and Dragons can speak Common. That's how everybody communicates with each other. But you can also speak Elvish, Draconic, Dwarvish and Goblin. So if somebody were having if there were two goblins having a private conversation and they weren't speaking Common, you would still be able to understand them because of this. Now, me as the dungeon master, it would be my job to relay that conversation to you because you understood it. And then it would be up to you to tell everybody else in the group because they might not be able to. Then obviously you've got down here spell slots here. Here are all the things that you as your race are really good at and your class. So you've got spell casting, dark vision, which means you can see in the dark, and things like this. So obviously you'll get your sheet in advance and you can have a proper read through. Up here, these are your personality traits. So at the top here, we've got what you're like as a person, what's your ideal, what are your bonds, and what is your flaw. Now, if you do really well and you start to really play that character, you'll be given an inspiration point, which you can pop up here. You can choose to use that in a dice roll to make your dice rolls more successful as the game progresses. So the more times you act in character, the more inspiration points you get because you're inspiring other people playing, and you can then use that to again with your dice rolls. And then this one here, initiative, this is really important. So if we go into battle, or if there's something you're probably going to have to fight, me as the dungeon master, I would ask you to roll for initiative, and that would show me what order you will battle in. So if you get a low number, when you roll for initiative, you use your 20-sided dice. If you get a low number, you're probably going to be one of the last people to have a go. If you get a high number, you'll be one of the first. So it just dictates the order in which the battle is going to take place, and obviously you can add this onto your dice roll. On the back of here, we've got even more information for you, but mostly this is just telling you background information about your character. Now this is up to you, so when you actually get your sheet, you're going to decide what your background is. So why did you choose to become an adventurer? It doesn't have to be an in-depth background, it just gives you help when you're playing your character if you know why you are there. So that's just a bit of information once you've got your sheet to have a think about. If you have a look through this sheet once I've sent it to you and you have no idea what some of the bits are, just send me a message and I will quickly send you a little message back to explain. So I hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Bye.